Welcome back to the 5th episode of the Level Up podcast, where we ensure that you get involved and become a part of the sector that's building the future. Now, if you have missed any of our episodes, please make sure you head over to all our socials and the links provided to ensure that you catch up so you can get to this point and understand every single thing that we are going to be talking about today. Now, today I've brought some beautiful ladies to ensure that this episode is all about the ladies. But the information that we are going to be giving you is, of course, a blanket bomb approach to everyone, whether you're a learner, an employer, or someone that's looking to see how the services SETA is impacting the industry and the economy. This is the perfect place for you to get equipped with all that knowledge. Now, as I mentioned, my guests, two beautiful ladies, the first being Shireen Raju. She is, of course, the services SETA's manager for discretionary grant and learning programs. And of course, I am joined by Suzan Kgobe, who's the Gauteng Provincial Manager at services SETA. They both join me today to talk all about training programs from initiation to implementation. These are the two ladies that have all the necessary knowledge that we need. As always, do get in touch with us on the socials and share your opinions on any of the subject matter that we are going to be touching base on. And without further ado, ladies, welcome to the Level Up podcast, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having us over.
It's such a pleasure. So I realized when we got on set is that there's a black kind of theme going on. So I had to make sure that I match with you. We're all sort of matching in a sense. I mean, I mentioned your titles, and when I mention it, it sounds heavy. Right. If I touch base on you, Shireen, if we touch base on, manager for discretionary grants learning programs, that sounds like a lot. Let's talk a little bit about what your day to day looks like.
Okay. The discretionary grant learning program day-to-day activities is verifying learner documents, entity documents. So this is once an entity receives a valid offer letter, they awarded an allocation.
Okay.
Then the team gets in and starts verifying these documents once it's uploaded on the LMIS, the Learner Management Information System, and that is a full-on verification process. So for the DGLP unit, we are linked directly to the APP targets. That's 12 indicators of the APP that we need to achieve. And currently for this financial year, we're looking at 30,113 learners to be enrolled at the end of 31st March 2026. So that's a huge target set out, and it's something that the team works towards achieving. So it's a monthly output leading to a quarterly, the 3 months, and finally to ensure that we met that huge target that's in front of us.
And if you look at the number this year, you said 31, around plus minus 31,000. Is this a jump from the previous years? Are you seeing an improvement, or is it something that's depreciated?
No, it has increased. It's the SLA that we signed with the Department of Higher Education. So the numbers have increased. And it's also, if you're looking at our economic situation at the moment, where we have the unemployed youth. So we are driving that process to get everyone into a specific learning program, whether it's a learnership, internship, skills program. So that's the main goal behind it. To achieve that.
Ms. Suzan Kgobe, you are Gauteng Provincial Manager. Very big title. Let's talk a bit about what you do on a daily basis.
Okay. So from the provincial operations aspect, once a DG Occupational's department has verified the employer documents, the learner documents, and they confirm them as compliant, then they will issue what we call a commencement letter that will trigger the employers to enroll or to start implementing the program. That's when I take over the process. So now we start the process by introducing ourselves to the employers who are the recipients of the funding. Right. But we'll have like a stakeholder engagement session where I invite and those employer into a session, and I take them through the process, because some of them will be new entities that will be the first time getting funding from the services SETA. And so they capacitate them in terms of our implementation process, what would be the requirements and the expectations. And parallel process will also take place where I have a team that I work with that will then engage with the entity to schedule induction. This is where now, because I'll engage with the lead employer, and mostly the team will then engage with the entire team, including the labels, so that everybody is aware of their responsibility in the successful implementation of their program. So we'll do an induction where a presentation is done to the learners, the employers, depending also on the intervention that they're implementing. The mentors will be invited. There's skills development providers will also invited because each person has a role in the successful implementation of the project.
Right.
So basically, that's what we made sure that the commencement dates that Shireen's unit are issuing are implemented correctly at the time what is supposed to be.
So it's like a well-oiled machine. We start with you, Shireen. You ensure that all of them are compliant, that all the documentation is there. Then you then pass it over to Susan's team, who then does. So it's like initiation, implementation. Right. Okay. Let's go back then. Let's start at the initiation process. Let's start with procedures, and when it comes to ensuring that these steps are all done, where do we start? Is it the learners coming to you looking for a program, or is it how do you go about ensuring that the whole step-by-step process is done?
Okay, so on project initiation, it starts off when there's a discretionary grant advert that goes live
Right.
on the website, in the newspaper, and then there's a DG portal, the discretionary grant portal. It's an invitation to all the stakeholders on a public domain where you can apply for a discretionary grant. And on that advert, there's a scope of the advert, very specific. It tells you the learning programs, the number of learners that are being advertised, the qualifications, the locations. So it's a national footprint, or it's specific to a certain province. So it gives you that full scope of the advert. So we have the lead employers, training providers going on the platform, applying for a discretionary grant award. Once they do that, there's a 30-day clock that's ticking, and the advert will close. And then once it closes off, that's when it goes through a process of desktop evaluation, due diligence, to ensure that these are the right recipients that will receive that allocation. So that's a whole process. Then once they get the award letter in the form of that offer letter, that once it's approved, it goes through the different channels of approval. Once it's approved, then that's handed over to the unit, DGLP, for the project initiation phase.
Right.
And that's when we step in and we do a DG briefing session. I actually conduct that session with the team for all the successful recipients. And we give them a full overview of the Discretionary Grant Learning Programme SOP, Standard Operating Procedure, to tell them what documents are required. So we have the learner documents, the entity documents. We even tell them what errors they should avoid. So we look at our 5-year financial year and what were the common errors. So we actually tell entities, please avoid this so that you don't go into remediation. So the team goes into that process of the full-on verification. So you verify the entity documents, the learner documents, and then it gets recommended from the respective senior officer over to me to recommend to my seniors to commence that project.
Right.
And that's what Suzan was talking about. When we press that button and the entity gets that commencement letter. The commencement letter is for all compliant learners per the learning program and what they were awarded for. And once they get that commencement letter, it's very clear. It says within 14 working days, you need to commence. And that's when Suzan and her team, and on a national footprint as well, across all provinces, they will schedule the induction. And then she takes over from there.
Right. So it's clear, 14 days once it's been issued, and
Yes.
you need to get started. What if I lapse that time? Would I then need to reapply from the beginning, or how would that work if I lapse that 14 days? Because I know we like to leave things till last minute. So if it does so happen that I do lapse that time, would I need to start the process again? Would I need to communicate that, hey, I missed this time? How would that then work?
Okay. So from the commencement letter, when it's issued by Shireen and T, it will come to me, and that's why I do the session where I invite these entities that have applied to also test if they are ready. Remember, the verification process might have taken a while for the financial prepared, so they might not be in a position to commence within the specified time. So in that session, that's where we test whether the entity is ready to accept the. And if in the session they indicate that for whatever reasons, maybe they still need to secure a training venue. Also, it depends on the qualification, or because they need to notify the learners and they will not be able to commence in time. What we'll do is we'll ask them to put that in writing for us, so that we are able to motivate and adjust. Because remember, the commencement letter, like the start is a start date for a program. And like Shireen said, it has 14 days and 14 working days to commence, which also triggers the invoicing info. There are expectations that in this time, for entity to be able to claim their first strike, they should have started trade. So if they haven't, they will not be able to.
Yeah.
We don't pay in advance. The program needs those need to that we actually commence training for us to be able to pay the first strike. So once they indicate that, then we are able to prepare a memo to adjust their start date. Because all these parties needs to be informed, and finance needs to be notified, and not to expect invoice from this entity. And also I'm trying to also avoid late invoicing by entities, because previously they had such challenges where entities were not invoicing on time, which creates a challenge.
Yeah.
So we need and we encourage entities to actually speak to us, and so that we can see how best to support them. And also to find out what are the reasons why they're not in start. Sometimes they overthink processes, and you find that it's something that you are able to assist in clearing them and making sure the project starts on time.
All right.
Yeah.
You mentioned that there's a 30-day for when, the discretionary grant we put up as a post. And in that 30 days, I'm curious to know, I've said this before, when it comes to government, oftentimes it's like, who do you know? So when that discretionary grant is put up, is it for everybody to just enter, or have people already been chosen? Is it a free for all? Because I find oftentimes, people will be reluctant to apply for certain things because they feel like, I don't know, Shireen, I don't know, Suzan, or maybe I didn't get the right way to go about it, or I'm not involved in any kind of way. Is it, as simple as it seems to just go on the website and apply? Or, are there people that already have some form of loophole? I don't know. I'm curious to know, because I know for a fact that there's many people that feel discouraged to even go for anything government related, because it seems like you must know someone to get involved. But I'm curious to know from your end, is it as simple as it seems?
It is simple. So it's a DG portal that anyone will log in, but you look at the advert, the scope of the advert. Is it something that's going to work for me, for my company, or is it somebody that I can train, which province, which qualification? And I'll be honest, it's the amount of applications that we had in the previous DG window that was open. On the last deadline date, there was an overload. And the system took a strain. So you can see it's open for everyone, but you'll go through the various process post that. Anything from desktop evaluation to due diligence.
Yeah.
Is this entity that's passed the first stage and moved to this next stage, are they capable of implementing 500 learners? Or will they be implementing 50 learners, 500 versus 50? So there's a whole process leading to that valid offer.
Right.
So there's a process in place.
And if a company or an entity wants to get involved when it comes to training, but they don't know where to start, how would you advise them in ensuring that they get involved?
So once we advertise, we always look at what capacitation will go out to these entities. And previously we did run national road shows where you go per province and you capacitate the entities. You put out the invite and say, please come forward. We're going to tell you, we have this advert open. There's a portal. This is how it works. You need to have accreditation, or if you have any queries, we are there to address. So it becomes a national road show, and that's how you capacitate the entities and training providers. And even if it's a new entity who wants to come into the skill space, so it gives them that. Yeah.
And I think when it comes to, it being a national roadshow, part of the national roadshow would then be the induction, being part of that national roadshow. Let's talk about the induction in itself. Have you noticed over the years perhaps a need for more skills that maybe weren't being prioritized before? Perhaps it's a stipend. I know we love money, guys, so I'm going to ask about the money. Is there some form of incentive to say, okay, initially we weren't doing this, but now perhaps there's a stipend involved, or these are the soft skills that you'll gain that may be involved? Is there some form of development that you guys have put in through the induction?
Yes, there would be. Most of our interventions are for endpoint,
Okay.
and they will have stipends attached to them. Previously, we used to also implement skills programs. Okay. But we never used to pay stipend for the skills program because of a short skill. But we realized that the learners were not interested in participating in skill program. More that particular reflected more a financial incentive into it. So sometimes the learners fail to see the bigger picture in terms of their personal development and take up opportunities. So currently I think we started in the previous financial year where we introduced stipends in the short skills program where learners are incentivized for their participation in program. But we encourage them to see the bigger picture because you also see with the dropout rates of learners to see that actually the motivation is kind of split.
Yeah.
They're more taking the mind when another term offers more stipend, they will go jump ship, BS, complete this one. Sure. Yeah. So we try to educate the learners and that's why we do the induction sessions with the employers, with the learners, try and encourage them to say, try your best to finish one you started.
I know. And I think as youth, I'm a victim of this myself, is that the money is the driving force. And it shouldn't be like that because the skills that you gain and all the necessary tools that you're learning at these learnerships will carry you far more than that stipend for that month. That money is going to finish in 2 weeks. But the skills will remain. And I think that's something that we as the youth need to consistently instill in ourselves, that it is something that's going to benefit us further. Now, I'm curious to know what happens if a company or an entity doesn't fulfill the mandate that you guys approved. So initially when they said, okay, this is what we're going to do for X number of learners, and then it falls away. From your perspective, and I think this is a question that, both of you can answer in that regard. What happens if a company doesn't follow through with the mandate that they promised that you have approved prior to everything starting?
So once an entity gets an offer letter, the clock starts ticking. They have 60 working days to commence the project.
Okay.
And once they expire that 60 working days, we issue them with a notice of late enrollment in writing to say you haven't adhered to
Time's
us.
running out.
Yeah. And then we give them the opportunity to write back to us and say, sorry, I've had this challenge
Right.
or whatever the case is. And then within the next 14 working days, they must convert it into a commencement letter.
Okay.
If not, the project gets cancelled. It'll go into cancellation,
Okay.
meaning you lost the funding. And if you've incurred any costs, you won't be able to actually claim
Back.
from us.
Right. Sure. Okay. And in that instance, I'm sure you've seen this happen before.
Yes.
What would then happen to, those, let's say 50 learners? Would they be then redirected to a different project? Or would you have to wait for another entity or company to be able to take them in?
So once it goes into cancellation, it actually gets offset our commitment schedule.
Okay.
It gets removed. So that becomes a bit hectic. So the entity knows what they're agreeing into. But yes, you're raising something that's important and that happens to us on a daily basis. We see it.
Sure.
You accept the offer, but you don't deliver on your 60 working days.
And I mean, for you, Suzan, how is the monitoring and evaluation conducted during, let's start with implementation and then, of course, the follow through thereafter to ensure that, things like this don't fall through the cracks? Because I can imagine that, you essentially try your best to ensure this doesn't happen, but there'll always be a loophole. When it comes to monitoring and evaluation, how are you ensuring that you're conducting that from a provincial level?
Okay. So from the point where the commencement that I say, we schedule an induction token. So the induction session is to confirm the commitment with the entities and all the parties involved to validate the learners that are implemented in the project, whether they are like perfect learners. Do what we call a roll call to make the induction where each learner must be accounted for. If learners are absent in the induction, the entity needs to provide us the confirmation in writing that the learners are still part of the program, or if learners have absconded from the induction, they need to then complete the termination form so that the learners can be removed from the project. And like I said, like we also, our processes, those are also linked, our monitoring processes are also linked to our invoicing, where the budget allocating for the project will be divided into tranches. So each invoice must be accompanied by a report that confirms that an induction or a monitoring has taken place. And during each session, our learners must be accounted for. So we always pay against the active learners to make sure that the stipend, the money allocated for the project is going to the correct learner. So finance will not process an invoice without a confirmation from the committee operators saying that yes, these learners are still active, and if they are terminated learners, they have been terminated and released from the product. So that's how we make sure that our processes are and the budget is utilized.
As long as you're not dealing with ghost learners, because that's a real thing.
That's why we try to avoid. Because previously, like SETA has been in existence for a while.
Yeah.
And we've been implementing projects for all the time. And every time there's a gap in the process, we try and change our processes to try and accommodate and learn from our mistakes or our oversight. And we've had instances where monitoring was not very strong in terms of our implemented project. And hence now we do roll call on all our monitoring, like in data monitoring, we need to know where the learners are. If they're in a classroom, we need to go to the classroom actually to get information. If a leading player say the learners on leave, we need to provide us with like this to confirm their if learners are at a workplace, we need to know where the workplace is so that we can also check whether the workplace experience they're getting it's linked or it's relevant to the qualification they're doing. So you do all those checks.
Yeah. And I can imagine, I mean, this in itself gets you ready for the workplace. It gets you ready for, an actual working environment where you have to be accounted for and your actions need to be accounted for as an individual. So you can't just decide to be absent when there's so much on the line, especially from, both sides. You need to be accounted for from a provincial level. When we look at Gauteng, in comparison to perhaps other provinces, where do you think we stand when it comes to ensuring that all of these training programs and these learnerships are placed correctly and this monitoring and evaluation, just from a provincial perspective? Do you feel that, Gauteng is faring better with the other provinces, or, how do you feel about that?
It is, and also because Gauteng is very big.
Yeah.
And fortunately, because we are in Gauteng, I think the learners in Gauteng are actually getting the better compared to the other provinces. Yeah, they have access to information, they have access to opportunities that they need to take advantage of.
Yeah. And I think we touched a little bit on this in our previous episode. You can head over to all our socials and our links to be ensured to see that. But I think they also spoke about, the call for Services SETA to get to all these remote areas and all of these places where people don't have access and don't have access to internet to be able to see the likes of your post. So it's also imperative that you play your part in getting involved. The opportunities are there. It's just up to you to see how you develop and grow yourself. Shireen, I'm going to come to you next. When it comes to the difference between an offer letter, because I think maybe people get confused. I've got a letter. I'm not reading the fine print to know, okay, is this an offer letter? Is this a commencement letter? What sort of letter is this? What are some of those key factors that people can look out for, just so that they're able to see what letter it is beyond just the reading? Yes. But I do think there's those little nuggets that get people confused as to what type of letter is this? How would you give them that advice?
You're 100% correct about that. Someone can take the offer letter and commence the project.
I made it.
So the offer letter is when you are awarded this allocation. You went through the process of the advert.
Right.
You were successful. And it has the statutory requirements there. And it's very key. It gives you the allocation you awarded, the province, the budget value of that. It's signed off by the CEO, and the respective entity needs to acknowledge receipt of it. So that's your offer letter, what you've been offered. It has the clause even about the 60 days and what's expected from you. And we also highlight in the offer letter that you'll be attending a briefing session.
Okay.
So that's key, that you will attend that briefing session. And then a commencement letter is post the verification, validation of entity documents, learner documents. On our LMIS system, the Learner Management Information System, where these learner documents and entity documents are verified, deemed compliant, entity would have remediated if remediation was required. And we extract the compliant learners from the LMIS, and that forms part of your commencement letter.
Okay.
So your commencement letter is an official document stating, go ahead, you can implement this project. Then it's handed over to our teams in each province. And that's why my colleague is here with me. That's the synergy between us.
Right.
Yeah.
And how do you handle non-compliant documents? I think in our previous episode, we briefly touched on, the system in itself in saying that it will tell you, hey, flagging this is wrong, perhaps insert the right document, or this is wrong, you can't move forward because XYZ. How do you handle those non-compliant documents? And I think we can pass that question to both of you. Sure.
So on project initiation, when we talk about non-compliant documents, at the first point in the briefing session, where I have a slide highlighting to the entities, please avoid these common errors.
Right.
An unclear ID,
Okay.
or you didn't attach the highest qualification, or you saved your documents in the wrong tab. So over the 5-year period, we could identify common errors. And then the respective senior officer from DGLP conducts a kickoff meeting post the briefing session. That's a very personalized session. It's the senior officer of DGLP together with the lead employer. It's a one-on-one session where they take them through it's a walkthrough of the LMIS as well as what's the required documents, and proper guidance is given to the entity to say, please avoid these areas, or this is the quality we're looking at. But entities are allowed remediation, but we try to streamline it and capture this in the 2 sessions so that they get that support to say, okay, when I upload onto LMIS, I'm uploading good documents that will eliminate a lot of remediation, and I'll get my commencement letter much faster. So that's the
Amazing.
process.
And of course, you have been able to see sort of where the weight of the learnership and training programs is going. And I think on a provincial level as well, you're seeing, okay, Gauteng is gearing more towards XYZ. What are those industries that you are seeing quite a lot of interest in? And perhaps maybe it could gear people to head towards that, or go towards the one that aren't so saturated, and maybe you could get your foot in the door. What have you seen as those industries that perhaps a lot of people are flocking towards and maybe not so much in the others?
We are a services sector SETA. There are different SETA that represent different sectors.
Correct.
So ours is more services sector. But now the challenge is that we are now getting from the what we call distorted qualifications or professional qualifications, which is where we're trying to push a lot of as skill development providers or need employers towards for them to try and implement more occupational qualifications so that we can prepare the learners better. Right. Because as much as we have implemented historic qualifications, they had their own challenges where you find that the learner has completed a learnership, but when they get to a workplace, they're not actually ready. Yeah, because they were not exposed enough to the workplace components of the qualification. So for now, we are trying to encourage the training providers first to apply for accreditation for occupational qualification so that we can implement, and also trying to also encourage learners to take on artisanal or what for technical trades qualifications, because then it's two things that can happen out of that. Yeah, able to also create your own employment and employ other people as well, right? Getting that qualification. So that's what we're trying to do from a provincial aspect. But also it depends on your interest, because services, I think each and every industry has a service element to it. Correct. So we're trying to encourage the learners. So your passion as well. And entities also, when they teach the learners, try to match the learner to their interests, to the qualifications that they're interested in. Because some will just do a qualification because they want to access their stipend. Yeah. But you find that they're not going to do anything about it. Then you find that a lot when actually they took the learners during the minister and take to them, and the learner will tell you, I have this qualification, but I'm not getting exposure to the qualification what I've made. Yeah. Try to encourage entities to breathe.
And I think that's also a message for us to give to our viewers is that, if you do follow your passion, you'll actually want to implement it further than just the stipend, further than when the learnership ends. What are you going to do to upskill yourself beyond just having that certificate? You do need to also get involved and ensure that you put in the work. Now, I'm curious to know, many job posts will say, okay, cool, we're looking for graduates with 5 years experience. And it's like, I just graduated. Where's this 5 years experience supposed to come from? Shireen, from your perspective, how do you think, as part of the core fundamental management of Services SETA, that you are bridging that gap when it comes to, fresh out of a higher institution of learning, but I'm supposed to have experience, but I don't have the experience. I'm just a child. Where am I supposed to? Where do you think Services SETA is kind of bridging that gap?
We are currently, we're covering all internships, the graduates from your higher institutions. We're even looking at the nated interns that need to go on an 18 months internship to get the national diploma.
Okay.
So we are funding all internship programs. So I think we're doing justice to that.
Right.
And we've seen a lot of graduates. We've seen some success stories, graduates that were on an internship program that are permanently employed. So there's some good stories to tell. So yes, there's quite a bit of graduates that have come through. So
Right.
from the various internship programs.
Yeah, let's backtrack a bit. You said something very important there, where you said, 18-month program in order to kind of up your marks, essentially. Would it be, or am I understanding you incorrectly?
So that internship is the nated internship.
Right.
You need to go on the 18 months internship to get your national diploma.
Okay.
So that's the nated internship.
And where would I come through in that? I would assume it would need to be at either grade 11 or matric to be able to get that. Or would I be able to do that at any point of life? I'm curious to know when I would start enrolling to get that 18-month internship to be able to get my qualifications.
So it's with the interns that are coming from your TVETs with the N6 certificate.
Got you.
So those are the colleagues that come through, the learners that come through,
Yeah.
and complete.
Amazing. And if I'm a learner watching this right now and I feel like, I'm feeling a little bit, I hear the information, but I don't know where to start. To that camera over there, Shireen, if you can just give them some word of advice on how they can get started on the GD.
Okay, so what happens is that you can go on our website and read the different learning programs
Right.
that we offer. Anything from a learnership, internship, we do have it on our website. But what happens is the entity that's awarded do their own recruitments. But there are some funding that are also going through the TVETs. So we encourage learners to come forward and say, I want to be on an internship program with the Services SETA.
Right.
So at the moment, I think that's the channels they can use, whether it's the TVET, the universities, look at the various funding models that are coming through on our website and engage. Even on the provincial level, I've seen a lot of interns walk through that provincial office, hand over a CV, because you do get, emails coming through to say, there's someone that dropped off a CV here. Please check if there's entities struggling to recruit. Look at the CV. So it cuts us across. Yeah.
There are different channels that you can get involved. Please, please, please make use of them. It's one thing for us to complain about the unemployment rate, but it's also another thing if you're just sitting and not doing anything about it. Opportunities are there, guys. Please head out there to all our platforms and ensure that you come back right here on the Services SETA podcast to take use of all of this information. Now, Suzan, I want to know from you, what is your favorite part of your job?
I love all of it.
No ways. All of it.
I do actually.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that I know that on a daily basis, whatever that I'm doing or my team is doing is assisting someone, giving information to the entities. What I've noticed this year that we bought when we in the product rating implemented prepare our first time applicants, which is very interesting because the clean canvas where you get to take them through the process. Some the first part even not only in the services sector, but in the skills development space. So for us to be able to guide them and the learners and getting that success stories at the end of the implemented program, when instance will invite you and say we're having a collaboration where our learners have completed certification. It's such a great moment. Or when we hear that in school saying actually the learners have completed it decided to absorb them in permanent position. That makes you see that whatever little that we're doing, actually worth it. It keeps making a difference. Yeah. So yes, I enjoy interacting with my stakeholders, being employers and they just walk into my office for whatever information. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, stressful, but definitely worth it. Shireen, best part of your job?
I think the best part is touching each and every life that you have on that commencement letter. It's somebody's life you're touching. You wake up in the morning and when you're issuing out that commencement letter, you are impacting someone's life. And I've attended quite a few graduations, and there's so many good stories to tell. And you don't realize the work. And us being the engine of the organization, it's initiation, implementation. But when you sit in at graduation and you look at those learners, and that stipend meant so much to them. And you'll realize that graduate, having that paper and converting it into practicals, getting a permanent job. I think that's what I love every day about waking up and impacting everyone's life. So as we call out a figure, 30,113 learners, those are lives that will be totally impacted. So good story.
I think that's the perfect place to round it up, from initiation to implementation. Two ladies that are really ensuring that they play their part in becoming a part of the sector that's building the future. Ladies, thank you so much for both your time, for ensuring that we were matching with our outfits today, and for all the beautiful knowledge that you are imparting on us and all our viewers at home. I was, of course, joined by Shireen Raju. She is the Services SETA's Manager for Discretionary Grant Learning Programs, and of course, Suzan Kgobe. She is Gauteng Provincial Manager at Services SETA. Thank you so much for your time, and have a great day further.
Thank you.
When we come back, we get in touch with all the nitty-gritties that you may have missed right here on the Level Up podcast, where we ensure that you get involved and become a part of the sector that's building the future. We'll be right back. Many people think that discretionary grants are only for big companies, and this is false. The discretionary grants are open to all qualifying entities, including the following: small, medium, and micro enterprises, non-profit organizations and community-based organizations, cooperatives, and public institutions. Once you receive an offer letter from Services SETA, you can start training immediately. This is incorrect. While the offer letter is not permission to begin training, it's a conditional approval. Training may only begin once Services SETA has completed verification of company and learner compliance and issued a commencement letter. Some may think verification is just paperwork formality. That's incorrect. Verification is a critical quality assurance process, and it confirms the following: that the company is legally registered, tax compliant, and accredited. Learners have valid IDs, qualifications, and signed agreements. Induction is not important, it's just a formality before training. This is incorrect. Induction is extremely important. It prepares leading and host employers, while learners are given program expectations, code of conduct, stipend processes, and available support. A proper induction helps prevent confusion, dropouts, and future disputes. Everyone can apply for a stipend. No, that's incorrect. Only unemployed learners that are currently enrolled on a funded Services SETA project will receive stipend for the duration of the learning program. That's all for this week. We'll catch you next time right here on the Services SETA podcast, where we ensure that you level up and get involved. Don't forget to become a part of the sector that's building the future. I'll see you next time.